Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. This is week number 32, and as usual, I suggest you reach for a pencil and paper and have it handy while we're talking. You might want to jot some things down. And I'd like to start out with a keynote about today's talk. We get up every morning and we go through a day, or if you work nights instead of days, then you get up at a different time. But the point is, we wake up from our sleep, and we go through a whole process, and then we go back to sleep again, and typically every 24 hours we're back to doing similar things. And sometimes life can become a feeling as if we're an animal running around in a maze, or like a rat on a wheel. We just keep running around in circles. Every Thursday we do our shopping, every Friday we do this, every Wednesday we do this, and we seem like we're just programmed to do things without any thought, and life becomes a little bit mechanical. But when God is your friend, and you're in the habit of asking him what to do, asking him where to go, asking him what to say, asking for his wisdom, and the more you do that, the better, by the way. If I could possibly never do anything without asking God and always do exactly what he inspired me, I'm sure I would evaporate and become some gaseous product that is just a joyful gas floating around on the planet. Because the more and more that I talk to God and do what he tells me, the happier I become. Okay, so let's begin. The first story I'd like to talk to you about, a coincidence miracle story, is I was passing out some cards, as I usually do. Those of you who are new to the radio show, I have little business cards that explain what my book is about, and explains a few keynote things about talking to God. And wherever I can, anytime I can, and when God inspires me to do so, I say to people, hi, I wrote a great book, and here's a little card. I'm advertising my book. I have to tell the whole world about my book. Can I just give you a card? And that's what I do. I drop cards off all over the planet, and I have to pass out 7 billion cards, by the way. So I have a lot of work in front of me. I'm just joking, but my goal is to give everybody, as many people as possible, a card about my book and my website. And the website is, if you Google https WCAT Radio. That's WCATradio.com/miracles/ You'll get a wealth of information about the book, and you get a wealth of information that's free that you can listen to any time. And all of our radio shows are on that same web address. So once again, it is https://wcatradio.com/miracles/ And you can always Google the title of the book and the title of this radio show, which are the same. And if you Google the title, which is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles, you'll get a wealth of information, and you'll find a lot of things about us there. Okay, so one coincidence miracle at one particular event was I was walking somewhere, and I was inspired to, it was actually on a sidewalk. I was walking down the sidewalk, and I saw this woman walking toward me, and I was inspired to give her a card. So I said hello, and I gave her the normal speech and handed her a card, and she said, "Can we talk a while?" I said, "Sure." So she leaned back against a stone wall that was there, and it was a very busy, populated area. There were a lot of people walking, and so she started to tell me that her husband, she had been married for something like 35 years, and her husband, she worshipped the ground that he walked on, had just recently passed away. I guess it was something like a month, and she was totally beside herself. She can't think straight. She can't plan anything. She has no interest in doing anything. She's out walking at the moment because she just couldn't stand anymore being inside, but she really didn't want to come out for a walk either. She doesn't know what possessed her to make her come out for a walk, but I do. She came out because she needed to talk to somebody. And I was able to relate to her because my wife passed away, and we were married for 53 years, and she was a wonderful woman, and I also had difficulty getting through that process. So I was able to give her some input, and I was able to, she did ask me, she said, "Would your book possibly help me?" And I said, "Absolutely." And you'll see the story of my wife's passing in the book, truly a miraculous story. And so she was really very depressed, very sad. I was hoping I was doing some good, but I had my doubts. I just continued to tell her what I was inspired to say by God. And so we parted, and she had the card. She said she would get the book, and I hoped for the best. My email is on my card, so people can email me as they do on occasion if they have questions. And I didn't think much about it, but about 4 weeks later, I was in another city and passing out cards. And on this particular day, I was led to walk in and out of some of the stores in the city in the downtown area and walk in and give cards to the clerks that work in the stores. So I wasn't bothering the customers. If you ever do that, the managers and the owners of the stores will beat you up. They don't want you disturbing their customers, obviously. But if I saw a clerk that was not busy, she was standing waiting for customers, then I could, introduce myself and hand a card. And I've been doing that for a while very successfully. So on this day, it's 4 weeks later, I walk into a store, and there I see her. She's behind the counter. She's got a radiant smile on her face, and she's so happy to see me. And it was a wonderful experience. She did not come and give me a big hug, but I could tell she was very pleased to see me. And we had a nice reunion chat. The book was tremendously helpful to her. And she's been able to cope with the loss. And she said in talking to God now, as she's doing every day, she's been inspired by God many times that her husband is extremely happy where he is, and she's not to be sad about it, and that he, in fact, was also following her around all day now in spiritual terms as well. So one coincidence miracle of finding a woman 4 weeks earlier who was downtrodden and depressed because I handed her a card, and now just walking into a particular store in another city, and just by chance, coincidence I should say, a coincidence created by God, because God was telling me which stores to go into and not, by the way. Some stores that had too many customers in, he would say, "Don't bother, you can't disturb the clerks, etc. So just want to point out to you that if we ask God what to do, these marvelous things happen, and God helps people through us. God uses us to say the right thing, and uses us to be in the right place at the right time, twice in this particular woman's case. The next coincidence miracle was similar to the one I just shared with you, but certainly much more horrific and horrible a story. I was, again, walking through a park one day and inspired by God to hand a card to a woman I saw walking toward me with a small child. I assume it was her son, and they were walking in the park, and they also had a pet dog with them. And they were walking toward me. So when we got close, I said, "Excuse me," and I did my normal thing. I said, "I wrote a book, a great book." I thought, "Can I just hand you a card?" And they asked, "What's the book about?" And I told them Coincidence Miracles. And they said, "Boy, I could really use a miracle." And I said, "Well, I'd be happy to help. What happened?" And she told me how a very close friend of hers, someone she had spent a lot of time with, and they had seen each other on a very regular basis, had just recently passed away, like 2 days earlier. Well, she found the person in their apartment 2 days earlier. But the problem was that they had passed away apparently a week earlier, something like a week earlier, and there was a large dog, a pet dog, in the apartment with them. So the only two living forces in the apartment was the person who passed away and this very large dog. And she related to me what a terrible situation it was, and you can imagine certainly it was a horrible situation. And she was so depressed because she found the body, and she says she's having nightmares ever since, and so she was really having a tough time. And so she asked, if the book would help, and I said, certainly, and I told her why, and I told her that the book helps people become a friend of God, and since God can do anything and everything, absolutely there's nothing beyond God's power except talking to us if we don't talk to Him. In other words, if we don't talk to God, He cannot talk to us. And the Bible is very clear about this in many, many places, and my book proves this to anybody. Anybody who reads my book will see that if we don't talk to God, He cannot talk to us because He gave us free will. Well, we had a nice chat, and I know I was helpful, but the gloom and the sadness and the depression and the fear of nightmares, the woman is afraid to go to sleep because when she goes to sleep, she has a nightmare about the whole event. So I did the best I could, and I prayed for her since then. Well, about 4 weeks later, I was in another location, 100 miles away from where I first met this person, and I was handing out cards again at a resort area. I turned around, lo and behold, there she was again. She was with her son and the dog again. We talked, and she was so different and changed. The book had helped her. She now talks to God on a regular basis every day, and God has inspired her now to understand, of all the people who could have walked in on this terrible scene that's giving her nightmares, she understands that God had her do it because she was the best able to cope with it. She said, if it was his mother or his father, they would have had a much tougher time. And so she sees the wisdom of God and why God had her walk in on this terrible scene, and God has blessed her. I'll talk to you all next week.